You'll be surprised just how much of your diving gear you can disassemble and look after to extend its lifespan. Hi all of you awesome scuba divers out there, welcome to Scuba Dive Magazine, your favourite place for the latest scuba diving news and gear reviews. Today we're looking at basically what you can service and maintain yourself with minimal technical know-how. Exactly what you can service kind of depends on where you live and the specific manufacturer. So I'm going to stick to the real basics. For example, here in the UK, you can't buy regulator service kits or certain replacement parts because a qualified technician has to fit them for you, which is a good thing from a certain point of view because the end user has less chance of damaging their regulator and diving faulty equipment. But if you know how to use a hex key and a spanner, then you should be good for most of these. Now, I'm sure as you all know, dive gear isn't universal these days. Whilst you'll be able to disassemble some things without tools, the same thing on a different brand will need a special tool. So if you're ever unsure, it's best to defer to a proper service technician, or you can live chat with one of the experts at Scuba.com, today's sponsor. Scuba.com is your one-stop shop for everything underwater. Whether you're a seasoned scuba diving pro or just starting to explore the wonders of the deep, Scuba.com has everything that you need. Browse their extensive selection of scuba and snorkeling equipment from leading brands, find masks, fins, BCDs, wetsuits and regulators and everything else that you need for a comfortable and safe dive. Scuba.com team consists of highly trained and experienced professionals who have dived all over the world. Get personalized recommendations for the perfect gear, no matter your diving destination or style. Ready to take the plunge? Scuba.com offers scuba diving classes from all levels, from beginner open water diver certification to advanced technical diving courses. If you're looking for the ultimate underwater adventure, Scuba.com curates diving trips around the globe to exotic destinations. Dive into a world of possibilities with Scuba.com. Your BCD. There are a few things that you can do with your BCD above and beyond a good wash and a clean. Each overpressure valve can be removed. They normally just unscrew, just hand tight. Some may have locking rings or clever systems. Those are kind of best left alone. For example, Scuba Pro fit red locking rings to some of their valves that you need a special tool to undo, but most common ones, like your right hand and your kidney dump, they're usually just done up hand tight. Unscrew it, check the seal on both sides, and you can then just screw them back together. Just be careful not to cross some of the threads because it's just a soft plastic. Some inflate valves you can service. I've actually done this completely in a separate video, but a lot of the proprietary valves require special tools, and some are even single-use disposable. As soon as they're broken on the inside, you basically just remove it, bin it, and then just get a replacement one. That's about all you can really do with your BCD, other than cleaning the zippers and checking for wear and tear between uses, especially around the weight pockets and stuff and the clips. Just have a look along them, just look for any kind of breakages. That's about it for your BCD. General maintenance for your dive mask is a thorough clean. Bonus points if you can disassemble your mask. That way you can get into all the little cracks between the glass and the silicone where mold really likes to grow. Bear in mind though that just because you see screw heads on your mask doesn't mean that you can disassemble any mask. The best way to determine whether your mask is disassemblable is if you can fit prescription lenses. If not, then just a good scrub with a toothbrush in these kind of corners in the mask, and that's the best way to really keep from just stuff growing. The strap itself is pretty easy to replace yourself. Removing the strap is the easiest part. Each mask buckle typically has a button or a lift tab that allow you to loosen the strap, and then once you reach the stopper, you can pull the end of the strap through that retainer. There's usually a chunky stopper section of the silicone mask strap, but if you're persistent, it will pull through. The same with the buckles, just give it a tug, you should be able to pull them through. And then to replace it, yeah, just everything in reverse. Sometimes it's useful to have like a little hooking device because they can get stuck in the buckle when you're trying to push the new strap back in, but with enough determination you should be able to get it through. Not a great deal to worry about your wetsuit. It's mainly the zippers and the smell. Really, bacteria love a wetsuit because the lining is absorbent, so give your wetsuit a good wash and a scrub with detergent on the inside and the outside, preferably a wetsuit shampoo, and then let it dry inside out thoroughly. Regular dish soap is pretty good, but a wetsuit shampoo is a better formula to care for your wetsuit and kill those nasties so your wetsuit doesn't smell. Check for nicks and cuts all over the suit, give it a stretch and then they'll start to grin so you'll see it. If you see anything that looks like it could split or fray on any of the seams, then clean it up the best that you can and use some neoprene glue just to patch it up. Reinforce any stitches that are just starting to go, and that stops them from spreading. If you just melt it down and leave it as it is, there's a chance that on your next dive it can just continue to unthread. So if you put some glue on, it just holds it in place. If you do need to put some reinforcing stitches in, then it's best to chase them with some neoprene glue again to help prevent any water from soaking straight through that stitch, through the neoprene and straight into the wetsuit. You can also use patches. Patches are best on the inside, just so that it helps to just strengthen the overall area. But yeah, neoprene glue, you want something that's water resistant but also flexible. If it dries rigid, then it's just going to damage your suit. You can remove both the inflate and deflate valves and give them a good wash with warm soapy water. Check over the seals and inspect for wear and tear. I like to give them a light dusting of unscented talcum powder to help stopping them from sticking to themselves, especially latex seals. If they're in storage for any length of time without any talc, they can literally melt into one another and then they just very quickly need replacing. So just a light coating. You don't want too much because then that gets clogged up in your valves. If you're worried about any leaks, then you can block the neck and the wrist seals, inflate your dry suit and then spray it with a soapy solution, and then look for any bubbles that indicate leaks. It's usually around the crotch because that's quite a high wear area, but just go over the entire suit because leaks can travel and that's just a good way to leak test your dry suit. Your zipper needs some love from time to time. Give it a rub with some solid beeswax when it's closed, and then run the slider backwards and forwards a few times just to work it into the mechanism. If the slider is stuck with salt buildup or something, then try to give that area a soak in some warm fresh water and see if it'll budge. If it doesn't budge after that, then add some acid, like a vinegar, in a 50-50 ratio with water, soak it for about 10 minutes, then clean it with a baking soda bath to neutralize the acid, and that just kind of works into all the little areas. If you've got a little toothbrush as well, just give it a little scrub just to have some physical action on that. But yeah, a little bit of acid can help, but of course you want to neutralize it after you've done it so it doesn't eat away at your zipper. So yeah, then use some baking soda and water to neutralize that acid. Depending on the dive computer, you can replace the battery, but it's important that you use the correct battery for obvious reasons, but don't skimp on the battery neither. You'll notice a huge difference between high-end batteries and cheap budget batteries as far as the lifetime of your computer, so it's always better to get the fancy ones. And try not to reuse O-rings. They do flatten when they're used and they harden as well, so it's important to swap them over for some fresh ones frequently. Rechargeable batteries do not like to be drained completely down to zero, so it's best to keep them somewhere between 20 and 80%. So just every now and then, every few weeks, if you're not using it, just top it up a bit. You don't have to go all the way up to 100%, just keep a decent charge in it. Look for any wear and tear, especially to the strap. Give every section a little pull and a twist just to look for any nicks and tears. You want to find any damage here on your workbench, not underwater when your strap fails and your dive computer just disappears. You shouldn't fiddle too much with your regulators without knowing how to undo whatever you've done. The most a layperson should really be looking at is replacing the hoses and the mouthpieces. If it requires more than just your hands to adjust it, it's best left alone. Port plugs, they're fine to play around. You can move them around. Just be sure to use the right size hex key. Some of these holes are imperial and the good ones are metric. Hoses, again, use the right size spanner and be careful where the tips are rotating when you're turning it so you don't scratch your first stage, and use 2 spanners when you're removing the second stage, because if you only use a single spanner to try and undo the hose, you can rotate the mechanism inside the second stage. So you'll notice there'll be 2 nuts side by side. Just hold onto the one that's attached onto the second stage and just brace it so it doesn't rotate, and then turn against that one with your other spanner. Mouthpieces, use some diagonal cutters to cut the zip tie off. Unless it's reusable, then you can just unclip it, and then you can replace the mouthpiece with the same size one. Do bear in mind that mouthpieces do come in different sizes. The actual hole, the peg that it attaches onto, comes in a couple different sizes, or 2 or 3 at least. Otherwise, just leave it to your service technician with your regulators. Give them a good wash and an inspection to clean out any nasties and whatever. Look over the hoses, look for any kind of damage between dives. That's about all you can do for yourself. Fins are pretty tough and don't need a lot of maintenance. The weak point on most fins is going to be the strap. The attachment point on most fins is what I call a snowman peg. This section of the strap just pivots on a peg that's molded out from the sides of the fins, and then the strap buckle kind of hooks over onto that. Give the buckle a firm push, like a forwards or a downwards angle, and it should just click off of that peg. Sometimes down here you have a little triangle down at the bottom of the snowman. You just have to make sure that you're lining it up properly. And it also means that the strap will only fit certain fins as well. But yeah, you just get that little snowman that hooks onto the peg. Putting them back on, you just line it up with the peg and just give it a firm tug. Some have extra notches to limit the rotation of the fin straps so they don't go all the way around. So just make sure that they're pointing the right direction first and then tug them into place. The strap itself is similar to a mask strap if you've still got ratchet straps. It will pull through the buckle, but it will resist, so you do have to be quite persistent. Sometimes a little bit of silicone grease can help just grease the wheels, but otherwise, yeah, it's just kind of brute force. Look over the entire cylinder for bumps and scratches. Dents in the walls of the cylinders, or dents anywhere in the cylinder really, can weaken them, and you need a hydro test to make sure that they're still strong and they can hold the pressure. Scratches can lead to corrosion, especially on steel cylinders if the salt water gets underneath the paint, where it can then cause rust. Also, remove any boots or netting and check over the entirety of the cylinder for rusting. This is why service technicians don't like stickers and things, because it just covers up rust that can be happening underneath. You want to have a good inspection of the outside of your cylinder as frequently as possible. Otherwise, if you dive A-clamp regulators, check out that O-ring on the face of the valve. It should be supple and rounded as well on the face. If it's like frayed or it's flattened and hard, it's worth just swapping it for a fresh O-ring. They're readily available. Chances are, when it does stop sealing, probably you won't be able to find the right size because you'll be out on a boat or something, so you might as well swap it over now when you have one in your hand. Don't forget about your dive knife. Most are made from steel. Even stainless steel will rust if you don't clean and dry it properly. Give it a flush with some warm, fresh, soapy water and manipulate any mechanisms to dislodge any salt that may be building up in the actual sheath. Once you've dried it thoroughly, give the metal section of the blade a light coating with some kind of grease to stop the water from getting to it, and sharpen it from time to time. I mean, when was the last time that you checked just how sharp that cutting edge was? Serrated blades are a bit trickier to do, but keep that cutting edge as sharp as possible, and then yeah, just coat it in grease so that the water can't physically get to the surface and cause rust. So many divers forget about their dive bag. You stow your kit inside after the dive, you throw it in the back of the car, you drive it home and then take your kit out to wash it, only the salt water is still inside your bag and it also needs a wash. The zipper, again, is the main problem here. Salt crystals build up in the slider and that can seize it up, so you need to give that a soak and a clean. If it's a fabric bag, then just the whole thing needs a proper wash. Just give it a good soak down with some warm soapy water. Dry bags are a bit easier because the water can't soak into the fabric, but they still need a hose down and a dry afterwards. So just keep it nice and clear, and of course check for any kind of leaks, because it's not really a good dry bag if it leaks. If you ever get stuck, your local dive centre is always there to help, and you can always ask one of the team on scuba.com for advice. In my experience, it's better just to be honest. Just tell them that, hey, you were trying to look after your equipment and you screwed up, you went a little bit too far or did something and you just need help. That's always better than trying to blag your way that you put your gear down and then the raccoon got to it, and we know when you're lying, especially when it involves raccoons. As tough as dive gear is made out to be, the regs, for example, they're made from marine grade brass, which is softer than steel tools, so it's very easy to scratch it. As I said at the start, if you're ever unsure because your gear looks different or it requires a tool to do something and you don't have the specific tool or whatever, it's best just to leave it alone. The manufacturer designed it that way for a reason, so that divers don't fiddle with their gear and mess it up. So just take it to a servicing technician. The least you need to do to extend your gear's lifespan is to wash it, clean it inside and out, let it dry properly inside and out, and just keep it out of direct sunlight, and then just service it according to the servicing schedule. Remember to head over to today's sponsor Scuba.com if you need some new dive equipment or to book your next diving holiday, and check out our website scubadivermag.com to see everything that we do over there, and of course subscribe to the channel here on YouTube. Thank you for watching everybody, and of course, safe diving.